The sky above Earth was bleeding fire. Cities burned like dying stars, their once proud silhouettes reduced to smoke and ruin. In the streets, desperate crowds scattered beneath the thunderous roar of alien warships, their monstrous shapes blotting out the sun. The Zephyr Dominion had come, a relentless force of destruction from beyond the stars, and humanity's defenses were collapsing everywhere. Yet amid the chaos and carnage, Eleanor Hayes tended her garden. Her hands, weathered and gentle, moved among the green leaves and stubborn blooms, coaxing life from the scorched earth. Her eyes, sharp despite the 95 years they had witnessed, held a calm far removed from the screams and sirens echoing in the distance. Neighbors called her Nana, a grandmother figure to all who lived nearby. Most had fled or hidden, but Eleanor stayed. Some thought her senile, others thought her brave. Neither was entirely right. She knew something they did not. It began with a warmth rising from her chest, faint at first, but growing like the dawn sun over the horizon. A flicker of light, pulsing beneath her skin, stirring ancient memories no one could understand. The world around her shattered, but Eleanor's heart beat steady, a hidden fire glowing inside. Across the city, the last bastions of human resistance scrambled to respond. General Malik's voice crackled through the comms, urgent and grim. "We've lost 3 major sectors. The Zephyr advance is faster than expected. Reinforcements are impossible. We're alone." In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins, a small group of scientists and fighters gathered around a holographic display. Dr. Anya Lin, the lead astrophysicist, pointed to a series of star charts and ancient symbols flickering on the screen. "There's only one hope left," she said. "One last legacy from humanity's forgotten past. A power we barely understood until now." The door opened, and Marcus, the Resistance's reconnaissance lead, stepped in with a cautious smile. "We found her," he said. "The old woman the legends spoke of. Eleanor Hayes." Back in her modest home, Eleanor sensed their presence long before they arrived. A knock at the door echoed like a summons. She opened it to find Marcus and Dr. Lin standing solemnly, hope and desperation etched on their faces. "Grandma Hayes," Marcus said respectfully, "the world needs you. You are the last of the solar legacy." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "I'm just an old woman," she said softly. "What power could I possibly have?" Dr. Lin stepped forward, pulling a small crystalline pendant from her pocket. It glowed faintly with a golden light. "This," she explained, "is the heart of Sol, a relic passed down through generations. You carry its power within you, the fury of 1,000,000 suns, the weapon Earth needs to survive." Eleanor's fingers trembled as she reached for the pendant. The warmth inside her surged stronger, flooding her veins with light and heat. Outside, the alien ships cast long shadows over the horizon. The Zephyr commanders watched from their bridge, amused by humanity's feeble resistance. "Let them cling to myths," one hissed. "Their end is inevitable." But Eleanor did not feel fear. In her heart, the old fire stirred, a power waiting to be unleashed. She closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the sun itself echoing through her. For the first time in decades, she smiled. "This world still has a chance," she whispered, and the fury of 1,000,000 suns began to burn. The bunker's air was thick with urgency. Flickering lights cast sharp shadows on the faces gathered around the holographic displays. Eleanor sat quietly, her frail hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the glowing pendant that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. Dr. Anya Lin stood before the group, her voice steady but filled with awe. "The solar legacy isn't just a myth," she explained. "It's an ancient genetic gift, passed down from the first humans who dared to harness the sun's power. A force so immense it can scorch worlds and bend light itself. Eleanor, you are the last living vessel of this legacy." Eleanor blinked, struggling to absorb the weight of the revelation. "I've lived a quiet life," she said softly. "How am I supposed to save the world now?" Marcus, the rugged scout who had found her days earlier, stepped forward. "We've seen what you can do, Nana. When we first scanned your vitals, there was a solar signature in your cells, something we can't explain. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to help." The resistance leaders arranged for Eleanor to undergo a series of tests. In the sterile glow of the lab, scientists measured energy flows and genetic markers, their instruments picking up bursts of solar radiation emanating from her very being. Valk, the lead biotechnologist, studied the data with wide eyes. "This is beyond anything we've seen. Her body generates energy like a miniature sun. Controlled, stable, but incredibly powerful. If she can learn to harness it, she could turn the tide of this war." Eleanor listened, her mind racing. She recalled stories told by her grandmother long ago, tales of star-born warriors, of the sun's fierce guardians who protected humanity in forgotten times. Now, those legends were real, and she was the last. But awakening this power would not be simple. The scientists warned her. The fury of a million suns was not just physical energy. It was spiritual, emotional, and deeply connected to the solar, heart beating in the core of Earth itself. Eleanor would have to reconnect with that ancient force and confront memories buried deep beneath her own. Days passed in a blur of training and meditation. Eleanor struggled against frailty and doubt. Her hands shook when she tried to summon light. Her breath faltered when she pushed too hard. But each failure only strengthened her resolve. One evening, as the sun dipped below the ruined skyline, Eleanor sat alone on a rooftop, eyes closed, focusing on the warmth inside her chest. Suddenly, a flare burst from her palm, a small but fierce blaze of golden fire, hovering like a star in the dusk. Tears welled in her eyes. "It's real," she whispered. Meanwhile, the Zephyr Dominion was not idle. Their commanders studied Eleanor's rising legend with unease. The dark energy weapon was being readied, a devastating device designed to extinguish solar power, to snuff out the light before it could ignite. "We cannot allow this solar legacy to rally the humans," hissed Admiral Vark. "Prepare. The weapon. She will be extinguished before her fury burns us all." Back with the resistance, Eleanor met a young woman named Leah, a tech-savvy rebel whose spirit burned as bright as the sun. "You're not just a grandma," Leah said with a grin. "You're a beacon. We'll stand with you every step." Together, Eleanor and Leah trained, blending ancient power with modern tech, forging a new hope from old fire. As night deepened, Eleanor felt the sun's pulse grow stronger inside her. The fury of a million suns was awakening, and with it, a new chapter in humanity's fight for survival. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in decades, Earth had a chance. Eleanor woke before dawn, her body aching in ways unfamiliar but not unwelcome. The silence of the ruined city was broken only by distant echoes, sirens, explosions, and the ever-present hum of alien patrols above. Her limbs felt heavy, but a fire blazed inside her chest, pulsing like the heartbeat of the sun itself. Today was another day of training, a test of strength, will, and the fiery legacy within her. Leah waited outside the resistance base, bundled in a worn jacket, her eyes bright with determination. "You ready?" she called with a grin. Eleanor smiled, steadied by the support. "Let's see if this old heart still knows how to burn." Inside the training hall, a mesh of advanced technology and ancient relics surrounded them. Scientists had fashioned a simulation chamber where Eleanor could practice controlling her solar energy without risking destruction. Her first attempts were clumsy. Small sparks flickered from her fingertips before sputtering out. Sweat beaded on her brow as she tried to focus, drawing on memories of sunlight through her childhood garden, the warmth of a summer afternoon. the steady glow of the hearth she had kept for decades. Then, suddenly, a blaze erupted, a golden orb floating in her palm, radiating heat and light. She held it steady, the fire dancing like a living thing. "See, you've got it," Leah cheered, but power was only part of the equation. Eleanor had to master control, lest her fury burn everything she loved. Days bled into nights as she trained, shaping solar flares into beams of searing light, learning to heal small wounds by channeling warmth, even bending shadows into shimmering illusions. Each success gave her strength, each failure humility, yet her body fought back. Age and years of quiet life were a heavy weight. After a particularly grueling session, Eleanor collapsed onto a bench, gasping. "Why did I think I could do this at my age?" she muttered. Leah sat beside her, handing over a water bottle. "Because you're the only one who can. And because you're stronger than you know." The resistance was fragile but unyielding. Marcus briefed Eleanor on recent developments. Zephyr forces had begun raids deeper into Earth's remaining strongholds, leaving devastation in their wake. "There's no more time to wait," Marcus said grimly. "They're coming for us all. We need you. Now." Eleanor nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle like a mantle. Her mind flashed to the peaceful years before the invasion, the birthdays, the quiet afternoons knitting by the fire, the faces of loved ones lost to time and war. But now those memories fueled her fire. She would fight, not just for survival, but for all the tomorrows stolen from humanity. One evening during meditation, Eleanor had a vivid vision. A radiant figure bathed in sunlight appeared, her ancestor, the first solar guardian. "You carry our blood, our hope," the figure said, voice like the crackle of solar flares. "The fury of 1,000,000 suns is not just power. It is love, sacrifice, and unyielding will. You must embrace it, or all will be lost." Eleanor's eyes snapped open, determination rekindled. But the Zephyr Dominion was no idle observer. Admiral Vark watched the reports, dark energy weapons primed. "Her light grows," he growled. "Deploy the shadow nullifier. If she threatens us, we will snuff her out, no matter the cost." Back at the base, Eleanor and Leah prepared for the coming storm. The old woman, once frail and unnoticed, was now humanity's beacon, a blazing sun standing tall against the endless night. 3. Battle for Earth was only beginning, but Eleanor Hayes was ready to bring the fury of 1,000,000 suns. The air was thick with tension as Eleanor stood atop the Resistance's command center, overlooking the scarred landscape of what used to be a thriving city. Smoke curled into the twilight sky, mingling with the eerie hum of approaching Zephyr scout ships. "Today we hit them back," Marcus said, his voice low but fierce. "We've tracked a supply convoy deep inside their territory. If we can disrupt their resources, it'll slow their advance." Eleanor's heart pounded. This was more than a mission. It was the first chance to show the world what she could do. The convoy was a massive serpent of armored transports and energy carriers, guarded by heavily armed drones and troops. The Resistance's forces were outnumbered, but Eleanor's presence gave them hope. As the battle began, Eleanor stepped forward. She felt the solar fire stirring within her like a beast waking from a long slumber. Closing her eyes, she drew on the power, igniting her palms in brilliant golden light. The first blast was like a miniature sun erupting, searing through the air with a roar. Eleanor unleashed a wave of solar flares that rippled across the enemy. Lines, incinerating drones and melting armored plating. The convoy staggered. Soldiers cheered and surged forward, inspired by the radiant figure leading them. But the Zephyr were relentless. They adapted quickly, deploying shadow drones designed to absorb and dissipate light. Eleanor's fire flickered against them, forcing her to concentrate harder, pushing her limits. Pain flared through her veins, her body protesting the immense energy she wielded. Still, she refused to falter. The battle raged, a dazzling clash of light and shadow. Eleanor's solar blasts lit the sky like fireworks, each strike echoing with the fury of a million suns. Resistance fighters used the chaos to sabotage the convoy's engines, igniting explosions that rocked the terrain. Suddenly, a shadow drone latched onto Eleanor's arm, its dark tendrils siphoning her energy. The golden light dimmed, and for a moment, she faltered. "Focus!" Leah shouted, rushing to her side with a pulse rifle. Eleanor gritted her teeth and summoned every ounce of willpower. With a surge, she unleashed a flare so intense it blinded the drone, burning it to ash. Victory was hard-won but decisive. The convoy lay in ruins, the Zephyr forced to retreat. For the first time, humanity tasted hope. Back at the base, the resistance celebrated. News of Eleanor's power spread like wildfire, an old woman blazing with solar fury, a living beacon against the darkness. But in the shadows, the Zephyr commanders seethed. "Her light grows stronger," Admiral Vark snarled. "Prepare the shadow nullifier. This time, we will extinguish her for good." That night, Eleanor sat alone, the glow from her pendant casting warm light across her face. Exhausted but unbroken, she thought of the people depending on her, the world trembling on the edge of destruction. Her hands trembled as she raised them, small sparks dancing at her fingertips. The fire inside her was no longer just power. It was hope, resilience, and defiance. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. The fury of a million suns had awoken, and Eleanor Hayes was ready to burn brighter than ever. The victory against the Zephyr convoy was a bright flare in the darkness, but the celebration was short-lived. The resistance base buzzed with urgent news. The Zephyr had deployed a new weapon, a dark energy device designed to extinguish solar power itself. Eleanor sat quietly in her room, the weight of leadership pressing on her frail shoulders. Her hands trembled as she clutched the glowing pendant, the heart of Saul, its warmth a faint comfort in the cold night. "Grandma, you need to see this," Leah said softly, handing Eleanor a datapad showing footage of the weapon's devastating effects. Entire fields of solar energy were snuffed out, plunging vast areas into darkness and despair. Eleanor's heart sank. Her power was born of the sun, but this new weapon threatened to snuff out even that. Days passed in a haze of exhaustion and doubt. Eleanor tried to train, but the dark energy drained her strength. Every flare she summoned felt dimmer, every burst of light harder to control. The fiery legacy within her was flickering like a candle in the wind. "I'm failing," she whispered one evening, tears slipping down her cheeks. "How can I protect anyone if I'm losing my own light?" Leah sat beside her, placing a steady hand over Eleanor's. "You're not alone. We all believe in you. We'll find a way." But Eleanor knew this battle wasn't just about power. It was about faith. Faith in herself, in the legacy she carried, and in the people fighting beside her. She retreated to her childhood home, a battered house nestled in the ruins of a once vibrant neighborhood. The garden was overgrown, but she still saw the memories there. The laughter of children, the warmth of summers long gone. Sitting beneath an ancient oak, Eleanor closed her eyes and reached deep within. She sought the spark that had always burned inside her, the connection to the sun, to earth itself. In that quiet moment, a vision came to her. Her ancestors, glowing, figures bathed in radiant light, standing tall and proud. "You are not alone," they whispered. "The solar fire is more than energy. It is spirit. It is the heart of humanity. Trust it." Eleanor's breathing slowed. A new calm settled in her chest, mingling with the warmth she'd almost lost. Returning to the resistance base, Eleanor shared her vision with the others. They devised a plan to strike the heart of the Zephyr weapon before it could be fully deployed. The mission was perilous, the enemy's defenses nearly impenetrable. But Eleanor knew this was their only hope. On the eve of the assault, Eleanor stood before her team, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "I may be old, but I carry the fury of 1,000,000 suns. Together, we will bring the light back to this world." The next day, the resistance moved out under cover of darkness. Eleanor led the charge, her solar energy blazing brighter than ever. As they approached the weapon's core, the dark energy pulsed menacingly, a void threatening to consume her light. With a fierce cry, Eleanor summoned all her strength, pouring the fire of the sun into a brilliant blast. The weapon shattered in a cascade of sparks and light. The victory was hard won, but it rekindled hope. Eleanor's light had not been extinguished. It had grown stronger. Yet the war was far from over. The Zephyr still loomed, and Eleanor's journey was only beginning. The destruction of the Zephyr's dark energy weapon sent ripples through both sides of the conflict. The resistance buzzed with renewed hope, but Eleanor felt the weight of the fight heavier than ever. The sun's fury that burned within her was powerful, but it was also unpredictable and exhausting. Each time Eleanor summoned her solar energy, it drained a little more from her aging body. Her knees ached, her vision blurred, and sometimes the fire inside felt like it would consume her completely. That evening, after a long day of training and strategizing, Eleanor sat alone beneath the sky, staring at the stars. The vastness of space was humbling, a reminder of how fragile and small Earth was. A soft voice broke her solitude. Leah approached, concern etched on her face. "You can't carry this burden alone, Nana," Leah said gently. "We have to find another way, something that doesn't burn you out." Eleanor smiled faintly. "This power was never meant to be mine alone. It's part of the Earth, part of all of us. I just have to learn how to share it." The next morning, Dr. Anya Lin called a meeting. She presented a new discovery: ancient solar conduits scattered across Earth, remnants of a forgotten civilization that had once channeled the sun's energy. "If we can reactivate them," Anya explained, "they could amplify Eleanor's power, spreading the energy so she won't have to carry it all by herself." Marcus and Leah exchanged hopeful glances. A new mission was forming, one that might turn the tide for good. Eleanor volunteered to lead the expedition to the nearest solar conduit, buried beneath the ruins of an old desert city. The journey was perilous, filled with Zephyr patrols and treacherous terrain, but Eleanor's presence inspired the team. Along the way, Eleanor's strength waned. Several times, she nearly collapsed from exhaustion, but her determination pushed her onward. At last, they reached the ancient site, a circle of towering pillars etched with glowing runes that pulsed faintly in the fading light. Eleanor stepped into the center, closing her eyes and reaching deep into the fire within her. The ground trembled as the pillars flared to life, beams of solar energy weaving between them like golden threads. A surge of warmth flooded Eleanor's body, easing her pain and filling her with renewed vigor. But the activation sent a signal, a beacon to the Zephyr. High above, Admiral Vark's warship intercepted the energy pulse. His eyes narrowed. "They're awakening more than just an old woman's power," he growled. "Prepare the fleet. We will crush this rebellion before it can grow." Back at the conduit, Eleanor sensed the looming threat but refused to waver. "This is our chance," she said, "to light the darkness and show the universe what humanity truly is." Leah grinned. "Then let's make sure they never forget it." As the team prepared to defend the conduit, Eleanor felt the fire within her transform. No longer a solitary blaze, it was part of a vast, radiant network, Earth itself becoming a living star. The fury of 1,000,000 suns was rising. The desert sun beat down mercilessly as Eleanor stood at the heart of the reawakened solar conduit. Around her, the ancient pillars blazed with golden light, weaving a web of energy that stretched far beyond the horizon. The air shimmered with heat, charged with a power that thrummed through every grain of sand beneath their feet. The fury of 1,000,000 suns was no longer just inside Eleanor. It was flowing through the very earth itself. Leah and Marcus stood by her side, their faces set with fierce determination. But the celebration was brief. Suddenly, the sky darkened. As the Zephyr fleet descended, sleek warships blotting out the sun. Their engines pulsed with cold, blue energy, shadows clashing against the solar light. Admiral Vark's voice boomed over the comms, cold and merciless. "You think your ancient flames can save you? We will snuff out your light and burn your world to ashes." Eleanor's gaze hardened. "We will not be extinguished," she said. "This light is ours, Earth's, and it will burn bright." With a deep breath, she stretched out her hands, unleashing a torrent of solar energy that blasted into the approaching fleet. Ships exploded in showers of fire and debris, but more poured in relentlessly. The battle was a dazzling storm of light and darkness. Eleanor moved like a living sun, blazing. Beams, searing flares, and walls of radiant heat that melted enemy armor and disrupted their energy shields. The ancient solar conduit amplified her power, allowing her to strike with the force of a star's core. But the Zephyr adapted quickly, deploying new weapons designed to absorb and redirect light. At one point, a massive shadow cannon fired directly. At Eleanor, a blast of pure void energy meant to erase her solar flames. She barely shielded herself, the impact throwing her to the ground, pain searing through her chest. Gritting her teeth, Eleanor closed her eyes and reached deep inside, drawing on every memory, every laugh, every tear, every moment that made her human. Then, with a roar that echoed across the battlefield, she erupted in a blinding nova of light. The fury of 1,000,000 suns exploded outward, engulfing the Zephyr fleet in a wave of pure, radiant energy. Ships shattered, weapons melted, and the dark shadow cannon was consumed in the blaze. When the light faded, the desert was silent, save for the crackling heat. The Zephyr fleet was retreating, battered and broken. Leah ran to Eleanor's side, eyes wide with awe. "You did it, Nana. You really did it." Eleanor smiled weakly, her body trembling but her spirit unbroken. "This is just the beginning. The fight for Earth is far from over." As the Resistance celebrated their hard-won victory, Eleanor felt something shift within her, a deeper connection to the solar legacy. She was no longer just a vessel. She was a beacon, a living star. The fury of 1,000,000 suns was hers to command, and she would wield it to protect humanity's future. But high above, Admiral Vark's dark ship vanished into the shadows, his eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over," he vowed. "We will return. And next time, there will be no light to stop us." The battlefield was quiet now, the afterglow of Eleanor's solar nova fading into the soft hues of dawn. The once threatened desert city lay in ruins, but beneath the scorched earth, life stirred anew. Eleanor sat on a cracked stone, her breath slow and steady as the golden light of the rising sun warmed her face. She was tired, her body worn by battle, her bones aching from decades, but her spirit blazed stronger than ever. Around her, the Resistance worked tirelessly, salvaging what they could, rebuilding what had been broken. Children laughed, a rare sound in these dark times, as Leah helped them chase small beams of light flickering from Eleanor's hands. "You're amazing, Nana," Leah said with a grin. "You really brought the fury of 1,000,000 suns." Eleanor chuckled softly, her eyes shining. "And you, my dear, are the reason that fire still burns." News of the victory spread quickly. Across Earth's remaining strongholds, hope blossomed like the first flowers after a harsh winter. The solar energy network, powered by the ancient conduits Eleanor had reawakened, began to pulse with life, fueling cities, healing lands, and lighting the darkest corners of the world. The Zephyr Dominion's shadow was receding, but Eleanor knew the war was not yet over. Yet she also knew humanity was no longer alone or weak. That evening, gathered around a simple fire, Marcus raised a glass. To Eleanor Hayes, the woman who reminded us that even in the darkest times, a single light can ignite 1,000 more. The group cheered, their voices rising in a song of resilience and unity. Eleanor looked up at the stars, feeling the warmth of generations past and those yet to come. She whispered a promise to the universe, to protect this fragile world, to carry the fire, and to never let the light die. Far beyond Earth, Admiral Vark watched from his retreat, nursing his wounds and his fury. But even he could not deny the truth. Humanity had changed. The fury of 1,000,000 suns was no longer just Eleanor's burden. It was a beacon of hope for all. And as Earth's last hope, a 95-year-old grandma had shown the universe that strength comes not from age or might alone, but from the unyielding spirit of those who refuse to give up. The sun rose higher, bathing the world in golden light. A new dawn had come. The end.